Hi everybody, this is Dr. Daulton from Hammond Chiropractic, and today I've teamed up with Fuel CrossFit and Crown Point again because I wanted to make a couple of videos for you guys about stretching. Remember when we did our videos about squats, and especially when we talked about the more advanced types of squats, there were a couple of things that we talked about as far as flexibility was concerned. And one of those things was when we go into our front squat, there's that front rack position that we talked about, which is where you're holding the bar in front of you and you have to bring the elbows up and forward in order to hold that properly. And what we explained to you in that video is that a lot of people don't have the shoulder flexibility in order to do that position properly. So what we decided to do was to put together a series of stretches that you can do at home that will allow you to gradually loosen up the shoulder joint and make it more flexible so that you do a better job with your front rack position and you find it a little bit less challenging for yourself, okay? So that's the first reason we did this video. The other thing that we wanted to talk about here, I figured we may as well just kill two birds with one stone. Let's talk about if you actually have shoulder problems. These are stretches that you can do that will help you with that, but there's a couple of things that I want to say about that if you are suffering with some type of a shoulder issue. The first thing that I want to tell you is that if you're experiencing pain or a limited range of motion in your shoulder, it's important that you see your chiropractor first before you do anything else. And the reason for that is this. You would be shocked at how many times people think that they have a shoulder problem, but actually what's happening is that they have a neck problem instead. And the way that that works is that all of the nerves in your neck that start there, they travel out and they travel into the shoulder and then they travel down the arm all the way down to the fingertips. And so a lot of times people will feel pain or they'll experience a limited range of motion in the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, whatever the case may be. But really what's happening is that there's pressure on a nerve up in the neck and what you're feeling is where the nerve is traveling to, okay? Now chiropractors, we look for a problem called subluxation, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what that is, even though I've talked about this on many other videos. But basically, if we look at your spine here, what we have is we have two bones stacked on top of each other. There's a disc between the two bones, and then you'll see here at the back, there's an opening created between them where the nerve is coming out of the spine. What can happen is that these bones can actually misalign, and if they do you see how they're going to put pressure onto that nerve? So what happens is that wherever this nerve is traveling to, there's going to be a problem developing. Now your nervous system is really, really important because it's basically the power source of your body. It's where the electricity is created that runs everything inside of you. So if these nerves are going into your shoulder or into your arm or hands or whatever the case may be, what you're going to experience is, number one, you could have pain in these areas, but also you're going to experience a loss of function because those body parts aren't getting enough electricity or energy for them to work properly, okay? So chiropractors look for those subluxations and we correct them. And if you have that happening in your neck, even if you have a shoulder problem, it's going to help it heal more quickly because you're turning on the power to that area when we correct that problem in the neck for someone, okay? So always check with your chiropractor before you do anything else if you are experiencing a problem in the shoulder, because there's a lot of things that we can do to help you with that, all right? Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about that. Now let's also talk about the muscles of the shoulder here for just a minute. Because when we do a stretching program for the shoulder, it's important that you stretch all of the different areas that are involved because it's actually a very complicated joint. Your shoulder is the most mobile joint in the entire body. Now, that's a good thing because that's what allows us to have really good range of motion with it. However, it's also a bad thing because if you injure the shoulder, it's a very, very long healing time that's required. And in fact, most shoulder injuries will take a full year before they fully heal. And that's no matter what you do with them. Whether you go through surgery, whether you go through physical therapy, chiropractic, it doesn't matter how you treat the problem. You're looking at a full year recovery. So we want to make sure that the shoulder joints stay as healthy as they possibly can. And that's one of the things that these stretches are going to do for you. However, the shoulder, because it's so complicated, let's talk about what we actually have to stretch. We have to stretch the chest muscles because the chest muscles actually come and attach into the front of the shoulder here and actually under the collarbone here as well. You have muscles on top of the shoulder that we have to stretch. You have muscles behind on the shoulder blade that come up and attach into the shoulder. And then we have muscles underneath the armpit that come up and also attach into the shoulder. When you look at the anatomy of this, what you'll see is that all of these muscles come together and they form a cuff around the shoulder joint. And so a lot of times you'll hear this referred to as the rotator cuff, all right? And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how all of these muscles come together and they form this cuff over the shoulder that allows it to move in so many different directions. But when we stretch the shoulder, it's important that we address all of those muscles, and the program that we're about to teach you, or that Coach Dustin Sherlow is going to be teaching you here from Top Fuel CrossFit, is going to address all of the shoulder joints. So if you just follow this program, you're going to get everything that you need to get out of this in order to accomplish stretching every single muscle and getting more mobility into that shoulder joint itself. Okay, so let's talk about the rules for stretching before we get into this. First of all, you only want to stretch when the joint is warmed up, or when the muscles are warmed up. Now, what that means is this: if you're going to be doing these stretches while you're working out, you always want to follow this pattern. You want to do a warm-up first, then you do your actual workout, and then you stretch at the end. The reason that we do it that way is because if the muscles are warmed up and there's a lot of blood flowing to those areas, you're going to be able to stretch them more easily, and you're not as likely to injure the tissues. You see, if we stretch a muscle when it's cold, what happens is that it's not prepared for that lengthening or that movement, and you take the chance that you're going to tear the tissues and cause damage to that muscle. So we always warm up first. If you're doing these stretches at home on your own and you're not planning on doing them with a workout, what you'll want to do is to start with just a little bit of a walk. You don't have to do a lot. You just want to get the blood flowing through the body. Once you get warmed up, then go ahead and do your stretches, and you're going to see that it'll be much more effective for you. The next thing we want to talk about is that when you go into your stretch, no bouncing ever. You're always going to stretch and hold. I don't even know where that comes from, where people bounce when they go into a stretch. That's not what you want to do. You want to put yourself into the stretch position, hold it there, all right? So no bouncing allowed. The next thing is that there's going to be two different types of stretches that we're going to be teaching you today. The first one is going to be a stretch and hold. If he tells you to hold that position, it's going to be for 30 seconds before you go to the other side. If you're repeating a motion for a period of time, then you're going to want to do that for 60 seconds. All right? So that's going to be the rule for that. The next thing is that we always stretch both sides. You never want to just do one side or the other. Even if you have pain in one shoulder, you're always going to stretch both sides, because we want to make sure that we maintain symmetry within the body as much as possible. So that's another important rule. Now, for these shoulder stretches, there's a couple things that you're going to need, especially if you're doing these at home. The first thing I would recommend that you get is a 5-foot PVC pipe. And you can get this at any home store like Menards or any of those places. They'll go ahead and cut one to size for you, but you want that one that's 5 foot long. If you don't have one of those and you want to start these stretches right away, you can take your broom handle. Sometimes the broom handle will actually unscrew from the broom itself, and you can use that instead. So you have a couple of options there, but the PVC pipe is very inexpensive and it's easy to get, so that's something that you'll want to get for this. The next thing that you're going to need is a weight bench for some of these stretches. Now, if you don't have a weight bench, that's okay. You can use a chair at your house, or you can even use your kitchen countertop for some of these, and we're going to explain how you do that when we're explaining the stretches to you. So those are some things that you're going to need. Now, that's all I have to say. What we're going to do now is I'm going to have Coach Dustin Sherlow from Top Fuel CrossFit and Crown Point walk you through step by step how to do these stretches, and I think you're going to find that if you do these on a regular basis, you're going to get a lot more flexibility in the shoulder joints, and you're just going to feel better in general. So I recommend that you do these every single day. All right, Coach Dustin, you can go ahead and take over.
PVC pass-throughs. This is going to stretch the entire shoulder. We're going to use a 5-foot PVC pipe. You're going to hold that at both ends. You're going to bring the arms up, overhead, and back without bending the elbows. You're going to repeat this movement in the forward direction and repeat at your own pace for a specific period of time. You should feel this in the entire shoulder and should see an improvement in shoulder motion if you are doing this correctly. Around the worlds is also going to stretch the entire shoulder. We're going to use that same 5-foot PVC pipe, hold the pipe at both ends, and starting with one arm, bring the arm up and to the opposite side of the body, then bring it around the head and to the back. Next, using the opposite arm, bring it up and to the opposite side of the back over the head, then around the head and back down to the front. Repeat this at your own pace for a specified period of time Then switch sides. You should feel this in the entire shoulder and see an improvement in shoulder motion if doing this correctly. The door stretch stretches the chest muscles and front of the shoulder. You're going to put your forearm on the door jamb, push forward, and you should feel this in the chest if you're doing this correctly. The angel stretch stretches the back of the shoulders, lats, and upper shoulders. We're going to place our back flat against the wall, lift the arms at your own pace until hands are touching without allowing your arms to come off the wall. You will feel this in the top and back of the shoulders, as well as along the sides under the armpits where the lats are. The prayer stretch stretches the back of the arms, or the triceps, and the back of the shoulders, the lats, and upper back. On a bench, we're going to go down into that prayer position, elbows on the bench, kneeling, and our head's going to pass through the arms. Some alternatives: we could have one arm at a time on the back of a weight bench or a countertop, or standing using the wall, elbows on the wall, and our head passes through the arms. You should feel this in the back of the arms, sides under the armpits, upper back, and shoulders if you're doing this correctly.